joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Buckchester. You know what I want to do on the show. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And we want you to be fired up today. You know, I have so many authors that are on the show, and we talk about everything but many times writing the book. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today, taking the plunge. Go ahead and do it. Step out in faith and become the author that you've always wanted to be. I know there's a book inside of you. There's something that you can share, and we're going to talk about the process today. My guest is author Alison Bazeley, and her book is Tilly Meets Her Match. And I think that you are going to enjoy our conversation today. Now, you know what I'm about to say. Go on, get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Alison. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. It's my pleasure.
Now, I'm really excited to talk to you today about your book, but before we do that, I want to ask you, who is Alison in your own words?
Well, I'm a mother, a wife, a grandmother, a great-grandmother, and a person who just loves books. I love reading them, and now I like writing them very much.
Now, I love how you have done a lot of various things in your life. If I understand correctly, you've been a civil servant as well as a teacher. Is that correct?
It is indeed.
Yes. Tell us a little bit more. What made you decide to become a teacher?
Mainly because I love children. I've always worked with children since I was 15 years old, and teaching is the best way to inspire them, to encourage them and help them to grow. I love to teach them to read, to enjoy books as much as I do, and to get the most out of life. So teaching seemed an obvious career for me.
Now, I like how you say when it comes to traveling that you inherited your itchy feet from your father. I like that statement. Can you tell us a little bit about your travels?
Well, I've lived in various countries like Germany and Cyprus and the Middle East, and I've visited lots of places like Australia and India and Africa, a little bit in Africa. I want to do more there. All of Europe, and several states here in America. That's why I'm here in New York.
I love it. I love it. Now, I like how you've mentioned that one of your hobbies is riding camels and water skiing. How interesting. Now, I have to admit, I've never ridden a camel. So if you would, how was that experience? Would you do it again?
Yes, I did it several times. Thankfully, when I was a lot younger, because it's very bumpy. It's not at all like riding a horse. The gait is totally different.
Okay. I can imagine. I have to tell you, doing that or even riding an elephant it looks like it can be such an exciting adventure when you're planning that portion of your vacation. But I always have the question, how is the ride? Is it, like you said, is it like riding a horse or no? And you're saying it's not. I can imagine.
It's very bumpy.
Right. I can imagine.
And the saddles are nowhere near as comfortable.
It looks like it's a different experience that you just simply have to almost do it to really determine whether or not you would like to do it again. I can understand.
Definitely.
I love it. So with all of your travels and everything that you have done, you're now settling into the role of author. Did you always know that you wanted to be an author, meaning like in high school or as a little child? As a
little child, I wanted to write desperately. I was 5 or 6 when I first learnt to write, and by the time I got to 7, I liked writing loads of things. And there was a competition from my school. You had to write a poem, so I wrote a poem. The only thing was, I got a prize for handwriting, not for the poem, so it couldn't have been any good. But I did get a first class for handwriting. So that sort of gave me the bug, and I got given a 5-year journal, and I started writing in that, and I've still got it. The 5 years are long up, so I've written a few more in between, but that really got me started on writing. And then writing stories became natural. I had children. They liked stories.
Yes. You know, it's funny.
And I was a little bit better at it than my mother and grandmother, because they used to make the most wonderful stories up out of their heads, but they never wrote anything down. So sadly, we haven't got those stories.
Yeah.
And that made me determined that I would write something down and have it published.
Right. That's what I was going to say, is that it seems like moms are so vital in getting us started with our love for reading, or sometimes even our dislike for reading. If our mothers love to read or they love to share stories, we have a tendency to like them as well. My mother was a nurse, and then went into the field of library science, and let me tell you, she has always been a person that has encouraged me to read, and it has definitely been something that I love, so I can understand that as well. Now, when it comes to writing right now, why did you feel that this book needed to be your current project?
Well, 2 things. One, I was writing a bit, and I became very ill. And I got allergies out of the blue, literally. No allergy one day, sudden severe anaphylaxis the next. And that anaphylaxis reaction was something I began to get to lots of things. So I became housebound with it over a 10-year period. I couldn't do anything without having somebody with me. It meant I couldn't pursue my career in the end. And so I was at home and bored out of my mind. And I thought, well, I wanted to write. I might as well do some writing. So I started writing bits and pieces, thinking I'd get somewhere and maybe one of these days finish a book. But it was on the back burner. And then I have a dear friend, Jenny, and Jenny wanted to enter a national competition as a first author. And she said, can you help me edit my book and proofread it and generally give me some encouragement? So I was doing that gaily until a month before it was due to be entered. And she wasn't parting with the book to post it off. And I was getting very fed up with the fact that she was never going to actually get rid of this book to the competition. And she told me I just didn't understand about writing a book. And I took that home with me, mentioned it to my goddaughter and my husband, because my goddaughter was living with us at the time. And my goddaughter said, well, why don't you write one and show her it can be done? So I started. 3 weeks later, I put it in the post. And writing the whole book.
See?
It was a dare.
Done. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love it. I love it. Now, when it comes to your writing in general, where do you get your inspiration? Is it like what's going on in the world? Is it personal experiences, your hopes, your dreams? A little bit of everything.
Basically out of my imagination, although I have been known to write a whole story just by dreaming it and sitting down the next morning scribbling it. I've done that before, but mainly it's just my imagination. I just imagine what it's going to be, and then I write it down.
Mm-hmm. But I think
that was silly.
That imagination. Mm-hmm. 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 Now, can you tell us a little bit about Tilly?
Well, Tilly's a young girl who grows up with a couple of friends and spends a lot of time with them. Her friends are Jenny and Anna, and Tilly meets her match. The book is basically about an adventure that Tilly has when she is just going about ordinary life. Life suddenly becomes very interesting for her. It's a mystery with lots of suspense and twists and turns, and a little bit of romance, because you have to have romance in your life to make it interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you much more because I don't want to give away the ending.
Right. I can understand that. That's right. Everyone has to purchase a copy in order to find out the ending. That is not a problem. Well, Alison, it is almost time for us to go to break. So if you would, please, can you remind everyone what is the title of your book, where can we pick up a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Well, the title of my book is Tilly Meets Her Match, and you can find it on Amazon Books, Google Books, Barnes & Noble, sites like that. Also from Author House, the publishers, on their site. And you can find me on Facebook as AP Bazeley Author. Hopefully you all will.
All righty, listeners. Now you guys know where you can pick up a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Being with Infants by Montessori teacher trainer and world-renowned child specialist Beverly Kovach is finally on DVD and digital download. The long-awaited 3D disc set is essential for any new parent, grandparent, or infant caregiver wanting respectful relationships with infants and their care. Being with Infants is broken down into 20 easy-to-digest video lessons, complete with demonstrations. Everything from diapering, feeding, the proper way of picking up infants, sleep, crying, environment, play, weaning, and much more are covered. Being with Infants is available on DVD and digital download at Walmart, Target, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. Order today and be sure to follow Being with Infants on Facebook for free bonus content.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is author Alison Bazeley, and we are talking about her book, Tilly Meets Her Match. So, Alison, my next question for you is about obstacles and hurdles. Were there any particular obstacles or hurdles that you had to overcome in order to be the success that you are right now?
Well, mainly my illness, because you can't do anything if you can't go anywhere. Books need promotion, so you have to be able to go to various places to do it. And I was housebound for 10 years, and then I got healed. God miraculously healed me, totally out of the blue. I was standing next to my husband while a lady called Alison actually said a prophecy over him which would involve him traveling. And I'm laughing to myself saying, God, that's not going to happen because he won't go without me. And then I realized when I said it, well, God, you've obviously got to heal me now. And he did. As soon as that thought went through my mind, a great big bolt of what felt like heat and light went through me right from the top of my head. And this sounds ridiculous, I know, but it came out through my 2 big toes. And once it had gone, I realized I was totally healed because I opened my eyes, and in front of me were examples of all the things that I was allergic to. I was allergic to poinsettias, lots of flowers, citrus fruits, cinnamon sticks, fir trees, and there was one of each right in front of me, including a scented candle. Normally, I would have been dead long before then, but God had healed me completely and utterly and given me the freedom to carry on and write books and be able to promote them and talk to people and open the door to do lots of exciting things that I never thought I would see because I thought I was going to be dead before Christmas. But he healed me on the 12th of December, and I've had 4 Christmases, and hopefully the 5th one's coming right up.
I hope that you have enjoyed your...
Because it will be 5 years.
Exactly. I hear you. Now, that is a really big thing to have experienced. And, you know, I'm so glad that you shared that story because there are people who share their stories and people don't believe them. I firmly believe that I don't have to experience it to believe that it has happened to you. And for most cases, why would someone make up such a magnificent story? You have to remember the lie. That's horrible. But when you're telling the truth, it's so easy to tell it over and over and over again and be excited when you tell it because it was such an awesome thing to have happened to you. So my 2 cents, I definitely believe that happened to you because I know that God answers our prayers.
Well,
so happy.
My whole church witnessed it.
Yeah.
The Sunday before was the first time I'd been to church in 2 years. They cleaned down the whole church, and everyone was told to come without perfume and deodorant and everything on. And I collapsed and ended up in A&E and told that I couldn't go through that again. I wouldn't live. And on the following Friday, there I was, able to do anything. So I have hundreds and hundreds of witnesses.
Yes, I love it. Now, when it comes to the characters in your book, so many times authors have real people that are the inspirations for the characters that they write about. Are any of the characters an inspiration of people that are in your real life? Is it a personal identity with any of the characters, or was it just again?
No, none of them are pure imagination. They're all pure imagination. None of them are, a friend. They might be a composite of several people, but they're not directly related to anyone.
Now, as far as your future in writing, so many times people will say, I've written this one book and that's it. I said what I needed to say and I'm done. Others that I've spoken with, they say, oh, heavens no, this is not it. This is just the first book in a series. How do you feel about your writing? Do you think that there are more books that you'll be sharing with us, or is this it?
Well, I've just finished writing the second one because I always envisaged that Tilly was part of a trilogy, because I wanted to write about her two friends as well to continue a story I'd started. So I've finished Jenny's book, which is called, now what did I decide to call it? Oh, I remember. Jenny's Brush with Fate. She never thought it could happen to her. And I'm actually more than halfway through the third book about Anna. It hasn't got a title yet, though. But one day it will have. And after a recent trip to Cornwall, I've got yet another book that I'm desperate to write. So I think there are a few more in me. I hope so.
Now, when it comes to writing and expressing the little idiosyncrasies of each of the characters, do you have a character that is your favorite? As far as like when it comes to the writing and the dialogue and all of that, do you have a favorite character?
Well, certainly in my next book, I've got an unusual one because my grandson decided to throw a character at me and make me include it, which gave me a challenge. But generally, I think the lead character is normally my favorite because that's the one I'm so involved with. But then when you're writing, you find somebody else crops up and you think, oh, this is an interesting person. What can I say about them? And so you write a bit about them. And gradually it all evolves into a story because everybody has people who come into their lives for a period, a season, and perhaps disappear out and come back later or perhaps never appear again. It's a one-off. I certainly had a one-off incident, and it's due to that person that I actually finished my first book, because otherwise I think I'd have given up. And I met him and his wife on Princess Street in Edinburgh, just by accident, got talking, and unbeknown to me, he was a columnist for the leading national paper, The Scotsman in Edinburgh, in Scotland, and he told me I had to finish it. He goes, if you're a writer, you finish the book and you get it published. And then you'll know if you can write. And because of that advice, I did. I finished the book. I got it published, but sadly, the gentleman, Mr. Albert Morris, passed away. But his dear wife, Teresa, we saw last month, and I was able to give her a copy of the book that he made me write. So I shall be always thankful to them.
Now, when it comes to your inspiration, are there any particular people, be it that they are authors or perhaps celebrity, or it could be just a local a neighbor? Is there someone who inspires you, who motivates you to be your best, not just when it comes to writing, but to simply be your best?
I think generally the inspiration to be my best is God, because God gave me any talent that I have. And I've always wanted to do whatever I did well so that I could please him. Because parents always like it when their children do well. I know when my children have done something special, I'm thrilled. And I wanted to be that sort of child for God. That I'd be able to do something in life that would be something that would thrill him. And so I've done my best. And with my writing, it's a case of people whose books I've read have inspired me to try and do something similar, because I've always liked authors like Agatha Christie or G.K. Chesterton, because of the intricacies of their plots. But I'm not so keen on murdering people off. I tend to avoid that if I possibly can. But I love the people who use words economically. I watched a wonderful film with my husband. I don't know if it's been on over here, but Downton Abbey.
Wonderful, wonderful show.
Well, we went to see that, the latest movie about it, and I just love Julian Fellowes' script writing and his books generally, because he writes so economically and he creates wonderful word pictures and inspires me. I want to learn to do wonderful word pictures too. But I read, when I was quite young, David Kossoff's books. I don't know if you remember him. He was an actor in the 60s, and he was asked to write some stories about Bible stories just to try and make them interesting for children, for television production. And they were so good, he was asked to write them in a book, and wrote several other books as a result. And I often read those because he's got the same economy of words as Julian Fellowes. And I find that very inspiring, to take something that nobody has a really good picture of and make it come so alive that you feel as though you're there at the time on a single page of a book. It's amazing.
Now, your book has themes that include mystery and romance. How true do you find that to be of the life that you lead in general?
Well, I've had romance in my life. I met my husband in a funny sort of way that was quite romantic, I think. I chased him down the road after my doorbell rang for the umpteenth time that afternoon. The local boys loved to play tricks on me, but I was studying for an exam at the time and got a bit fed up with their pranks. So when the doorbell went yet again, I was as mad as a hornet and going to give them what for. When I opened my door, there were no boys in sight. But my future husband was walking down the road rapidly, doing a Charlie Chaplin impression with an umbrella. He got both barrels very firmly. The only thing is he asked me out there and then and proposed on the first evening. We got married 2 years, 14 days, and 5 hours later, and we're still together after 45 years.
I love it.
Is that romantic?
It is, and thank God for the ringing of the bell, because you came, you went and you met your destiny because of the ringing of that bell. Isn't that awesome? Now, I know many people that believe that sometimes when bells ring out of no place, that it is the sign of our archangels around us that are calling us to certain things. That's what some people believe. So I think it is quite interesting that the ringing of the bell brought you to the love of your life. I love it. Well, Alison, it is time for us to take a very short break, but when we get back, I want to ask you just a few more questions about your writing experiences. If you would please, though, can you remind everyone, what is the title of your book, where can we get a copy, and how do we follow you online?
It's called Tilly Meets Her Match. You can find it on Amazon Books, Google Books, Barnes Noble. Most of the sites like that will have me listed. If you put my name in, A.P. Bazeley and Tilly, it pops up. Or you can find information by going to Facebook, A.P. Bazeley Author, and you'll find me there too. I look forward to hearing from you.
Indeed. Alrighty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this.
Anne, Camilla, William, and Fred. The four in the Humvee are on a perilous journey, halfway across the country to a tent city near the Mississippi River, a long ways from Boston. Through each bend and turn, they meet some people in need and others who have evil in their souls. Four unlikely heroes in a Humvee on an unlikely trip, the recipe for a captivating story. Grab this book, EMP Casualty by Michael Kravitz.
Hi everyone, Dr. Angela here. Did you know that Daily Spark is now on Facebook? That's right, you can visit with me at facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I want to know more about what you're thinking. I'd love to know which interview did you find the most entertaining or the most informative. I want to talk to you, and I want you to be able to talk to me. Simply visit facebook.com/Daily Spark with Dr. Angela.
And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I hope that you are enjoying your time with me. And today I am speaking with author Alison Bazeley, and she's written the book Tilly Meets Her Match. Now, I absolutely love, Alison, how you were just saying how you met your husband, or what was about to be your future husband at the time. I love it. I love that story. That is definitely a bit of romance. I think the mystery would come in who exactly rung the doorbell, but that's of no importance anymore because we have definitely a romantic end to the story. What I'd like to kind of pick your brain about a little bit more is the author aspect of your life. And so my next question for you is, and this is something that I ask of everyone, we all have a definition of success, be it that it is material things, being able to purchase things, or you live in a big house, or you're able to go on vacations, whatever success is for you. But my question for you is what does literary success look like to you?
Well, I suppose really it's being able to make contact with people in a way that doesn't involve all the sex and violence and bad language that we hear just about everywhere nowadays, but to just make contact with them in such a way that now what's the best way to explain it? I think it's to say that's honest and truthful and caring. Because so many things are not caring about how other people are or where they're at. But if I can be reaching people that way, then I'm very content. I've achieved everything I'd be happy to do. Because otherwise, if you don't make contact with people in life, you're an island on your own and it's boring.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now, do you
and it's the little things that show you care.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that when you're writing that it energizes you, or does it exhaust you? Not necessarily to the point of you just can't function the rest of the day, but do you find it to be work, or do you find it to, in a way, lift your spirits and energize you?
I find it energizes me. I may be tired at the end of a long day's writing, but I'm excited about what I'm going to write next.
Yes.
So there's always more energy left because I want to get to the end of the story too.
And, I found that so many authors say that as well, that they have a general outline or there's certain ideas that they want to make sure that they express or that they convey, but at the same time that they're writing the story, it's almost as though they're the reader as well. They're excited to find out where their imagination takes them for bits and pieces of the story. So yes, that definitely makes sense. I love it. Now,
well, my husband's longing for mine to take him to Japan and New Zealand. Unfortunately, I haven't thought of a story for Japan and New Zealand yet.
Oh,
So he'll have to stick with Cornwall and Scotland.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, if you could tell your younger self anything when it comes to your being an author, about how to write or what to write, when it comes to your writings, what would you tell your younger self? Is there anything you would plant in your younger self?
Yes, read a page of the dictionary every night before you go to bed. It's important to have a good vocabulary.
Yeah.
I made my daughter do it, but unfortunately, I didn't stick to it for long enough. But you never know. I might take it up again tonight.
You never know. And, you know, it's really funny because I'm sure some of the younger listeners are going, what? Read the dictionary? But that's something that my dad suggested that we do. Why? Because that's something that my grandfather suggested that his children, including my father, would do. My father does have other siblings as well, and that's just something that they passed on. Nowadays, we have apps and stuff like Word of the Day or SAT Word of the Day and all of these other things so that we can be introduced to these words, but people don't understand how important it is to have a vast vocabulary. We need to be able to express ourselves, and it's kind of hard if you only know 4 words. So yes, I have to agree. That is a great thing to do. I love it. I love it. Now, so many times authors have a favorite place or a favorite time of day or a favorite way in which they write. Did you find that you needed to have seclusion or inclusion? Did you need to have a sunrise or a sunset? What environment did you need in order to write successfully?
A shack. Definitely a shack. Because my house was always busy and I had nowhere I could go and hide. And eventually when I couldn't go out to work, my garden shed got dismantled once I'd emptied it, and my son and my husband built me one. And it's wonderful. You can go out there. It's insulated. It has electricity and light. And I can be there all on my own and lock people out if I need to.
Right.
Just to get some peace and quiet. And I can look out the window and I see pretty flowers. My friend bought me a nesting box, so I've just hung a nesting box. I'm hoping for birds to come along and nest in it one day, and I'll be able to watch them too. But my shack is essential.
I love it. Yes.
I even have a wonderful chair in it I inherited from my grandmother. It's a recliner, so I can even sit there reclining at my leisure with my laptop on my lap and still write. How perfect is that?
I hear you. Yeah. I love it. I love how you said to be able to keep them out sometimes, because you do need it. You just need it. And even if that includes an opportunity to just sit and have a cup of tea before you start writing in order to get in the proper headspace in order to write, I agree. Sometimes you need what you need. I love it. Now, did you have...
But sometimes you just need to run into a building and say, look, have you got a pen and a piece of paper?
Right.
At 6 o'clock in the morning, I ran into my local swimming pool because I was going for a dip, like I usually do in the morning. And I just had to get this idea straight down. So I'm standing scribbling while the queue of people's going in. First chapter of a book. I was desperate.
But, I think when it comes to people who are authors or artists, they're not the normal in-the-box type of people. You have to be willing to be unafraid of what other people are going to think in those moments. because the important task at that particular moment is don't lose this thought. And if it means, what looks like you're a crazy person standing over in the corner because you're talking into a little recorder, or you're leaving a voicemail on your own home phone so that you can remember it when you get home, whatever it is that you have to do, I think it is so important. I have a friend who is a composer, and oh my goodness, I love how she was so unafraid to sit and just hum out a tune, into her little recorder in the middle of the grocery store, just da-da-da-doom, ba-ba-boom, ba-ba-ba-ba.
I quite understand. The muse was upon her.
Yes. And I loved it. And I said, how bold is that action? And I was like, good for you. And she would just say, if I don't get it out, I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. And I said, hey, do what you have to do. I understand. So I love it. I love it. Well, my last question for you is this. If you could collaborate with any one person, or who knows, maybe there might be 2 or 3 people that you're thinking about. If you could collaborate with another author or perhaps with an artist or anything like that, is there someone else out there that you want to work with, regardless of the type of project, but there's someone that you would love to have the opportunity to work with?
Wow, what a wonderful question. Well, first of all, if Julian Fellows ever wants somebody to do a script with, I'm his woman. I'd be there in a flash. And if Moni was still with us, I want painting lessons. I'd love to be able to do a painting like him. But
yeah.
To be honest, anybody who's enthusiastic about their subject would be able to teach me something, because I just love somebody who's enthusiastic about what they do. If you listen to a tennis player talk about tennis, you want to play with them, don't you?
Yes.
If you listen to somebody who's written a song, you just want to emulate them because it sounds such a wonderful thing to do. And I think anyone with an enthusiasm like that, I would want to spend time with and be able to do something with. It would just give me such pleasure.
You are so correct on that, and I think about the younger ones, because some of them are children, and I mean children like 10 or 12, and then we have some young adults, some teenagers. When it comes to climate change and being advocates for our environment, they're out with a very strong, loud, passionate, empowered voice. And even if it was something that you didn't think about before, when you listen to them, you see how important that subject is, not only to them, but to those who agree with them. And you say, maybe I should think about, what can I do too? Even if it's not something grand, but maybe I can do something too. So I have to agree with you. Someone who writes a good book makes you want to continue to read. You can't wait to get to the next chapter. A good song will linger with you for the rest of the day, and it kind of just becomes that little earworm. You can't get it out of your head. So you're definitely right. You're definitely right. I love that. My prayer for our world is that we become impassioned about just loving each other more and being the best that we could be, and realizing how connected we all are, and that there's something we can learn from each other. So I love it. Thank you so much for sharing. Well, Alison, I'm so sorry. Tilly is the name of the book. Tilly Meets Her Match. Alison, if you could please, can you remind everyone, where can we pick up a copy of your book, And how do we stay in contact with you?
You can pick up a copy of my book online or bookstores like Amazon, Google, Barnes & Noble. You can order it from anywhere like that. And you can find me on Facebook as Alison or A.P. Bazeley author. You can find me there. I'd be very happy to have comments.
Yes. Alison Bazeley, thank you so much for being on Daily Spark with Dr. Angela today.
You're very welcome, Dr. Angela. I appreciate talking to you too. It's been fun.
And listeners, thank you for spending some time with me today as well. As always, may you continue to find God's grace and mercy throughout your day. May His face continue to shine upon you. Until next time, everyone, be blessed in the Lord. Bye-bye.